I feel like for most of my life, before I even knew of your teachings, it's been about 10 years that I've been watching your videos, but I was in my vortex creating and really focusing on things that I wanted to create in my life. It's always been a dominant, so I felt like I was primarily there most of the time.
Yeah.
And
it's easier to do that earlier in your life, isn't it? Because early in your life, you don't have all that structure, you don't have all those places, you don't have all those debts, you don't have all those strings attached, right. You don't have all those promises to others. In other words, it's all about future. And so it's much easier to have pure positive energy when you're futuristic in your thought than when you're facing reality in your thought, isn't it? Doesn't have to be that way, but we get why earlier in life you feel freer.
Right. So
you haven't gathered up all those thoughts that bind you.
Right.
You haven't thrown so much junk on your trail, on your path.
And so in that, I'm used to being over here, really looking at the things that I want to bring into my life. And I've got someone who I care about and love very much, and I know loves me very much, but is acutely aware of what he doesn't want and is...
But the thing is, we get that. It feels that if he knew what was up and was doing a better job of what you're trying to do a good job of, the condition would be better, and since you're focusing on the condition, you'd feel better. But why not focus on the unconditioned for a while? Because if you need that condition to change so that you can feel good, then you're going to need that condition to keep changing, and that one and that one and that one and that one and that one. You're going to hold yourself in bondage because you can't control what others are doing. You can't control what the path of least resistance is for other people. So you finally just got to say, it's my job to feel good regardless of how someone even as important as you is feeling.
Yeah.
And when you consistently do that, then either he will join you in alignment, which for sure he wants to do, or someone else will come and join you in alignment. But the other alternative is to join him in misalignment, and that's not an option for you anymore. It never has been. Your sensitivity does not allow it.
And that's why I'm sitting here, is that I became so discouraged and worked backwards to a point of a 2 to 3 year depression that I'm finding difficult to crawl back out of.
Well, it's easy though once you know what the rules of the game are. In other words, what you've heard here today will free you from all of that, because you just can't get there from there. So this is the story that you've been telling. So I am really sensitive, you say, and it's true, because I remember what it feels like to be in alignment with my source. I have this long memory and this long momentum of it. So now I've come together with someone, and that enhanced my alignment for a while, and then I find the conditions of this relationship to be someone who is focused upon what's wrong all the time, or on what isn't wanted. And so as I now try to convince him otherwise, or try to fix what's bothering him, as I try to smooth all the bumps out so that the conditions are just right, so that there's no unhappiness that is going on there, I find that I'm focused in opposition to who I really am. Your inner being won't do that for you, and you shouldn't do that for him. You can't win in that scenario. So here's the story you're telling. So I'm used to feeling good. I know what that feels like. I felt that way for a long time. Now I'm used to feeling bad, and I know what that feels like, and I really don't want it, and I can't stand it. And so now I'm turning all of my attention to that, and it's just getting worse and worse and worse and worse. Well, the laws of the universe and what we've explained to you today here explain why it's getting worse and worse and worse. You can't be turning away from your vortex. You can't be walking in opposition to the path that is calling you. It does just get worse and worse and worse. So you've just got to go general on the subject. As you go general instead of specific, you'll get feeling better and better. Say things like, things will work out, or I know what it feels like to feel good, or I never want to be reliant on what somebody else is doing in order to feel good. And I believe that I can get in alignment and get my shock absorbers going so that I will have the resources, the source flowing through me. And I've never wanted to live conditional. That's one of the best things about this relationship that is showing me that I don't want to ask someone else to be a condition to which I can have a favorable response. Because then I'm just part of a world that's running around trying to make all the conditions just the way that I need them to be so that I can feel good, which means that religion cannot stand, and That political party should not be allowed to exist, and this condition should not. Now you're like so many people in the world that feel that they need to obliterate this and remove this and push against this. In other words, if I push hard enough, war against drugs and war against poverty and war against teenage pregnancy and war against terrorism and war against cancer, and all of those things are just getting bigger because there's no such thing as war against anything. It's just perpetuating more of what is not wanted, you see. And so here's this wonderful person who stands in his own intentionality, who doesn't try very hard to please you, who wants you to try hard to please him, and yet you cannot stand on your head in enough different ways to make it right. His disagreement is not so much with you, it's with everything around him over which you have even less control, you see. And so finally, what this wonderful relationship has shown you is that you can't offer enough action to compensate for vibrational frequency that's off. You're not ever going to feel happy unless you're in frequency with the source within you. That's what's calling you. You just got to go there. And we're saying to you, you can go there, even though the conditions are what they seem to be. You still can go there. Now, this seems like a different conversation than we just had, doesn't it? But the reason that we're saying this to you is because the vibrational frequency that we feel from your partner, from your mate, is in sync with who you are. Think about how it was in the beginning. You didn't have so many conditions that were just right. You were both focused unconditionally. The thing about almost every relationship that comes back eventually to bite you in the somewhere is that you keep wanting the other person to be the reason that you feel good. And you got to cut that out. Because if you make them the reason that you feel good, then you're holding them to a standard that they cannot keep, and eventually you will come to resent them. Because it was never their job to maintain a frequency that keeps you in alignment with your inner being. It's your job to maintain a frequency that keeps you in alignment with your inner being. And you'll just be knocked over how as you reclaim that joyful you. This sensitivity works both ways. As you said, when you are tuned in, tapped in, turned on, that sensitivity is sublime. And when you are focused upon unwanted, that sensitivity feels terrible. And that sensitivity, hear this, is about continuing attention, which is about momentum. When you give your attention to anything, you focus on something for 17 seconds, another thought like it joins it. Stay there for another 17 seconds, another thought like it joins it. Stay there for another 17 seconds, another thought like it joins it. And when you pass the 68-second mark, you've got momentum going. Enough momentum going that you're beginning to feel the emotional ramifications of it, you see. So you just got to decide, I want to be happy first and foremost. And the conditions that are before me are not going to be the reason that I am not happy, because there are so many conditions in this world. Look outside. Have you looked around? Have you taken a deep breath of air? Have you felt the solidity of this planet? Have you acknowledged its proximity to other planets? Do you recognize what's going on? Don't you revel in amazement at the magnificence of your physical apparatus? There's so much that's easy for you to focus upon, that holds you in vibrational frequency with well-being that is who you really are. It's not as difficult as you think. These are the things that we feel most powerful about this conversation, about you specifically. You have the ability to focus in a very strong way, which means you get momentum going in a very strong way. When you get momentum going in opposition to your true momentum, it sucks. And that's all that's been going on. That's all that discouragement is. You fighting against you. It's not about your partner. It's you fighting against you. So what you want to say to him is, you know what? You're a real pain. But you help me so much, because in your uniquely being you, I've discovered what unconditional alignment really is. And I thank you for not jumping through hoops to be a condition that pleases me, because then you could be my only object of attention. And my life is so much more broad than that. This is a long-standing, non-physical, soul intention relationship. He said, I will not be easy to live with. And you said, I don't need easy. I have the whole world to focus on to bring me into alignment. Truly. Together we will teach one another what unconditional experience is really all about. So many of you trying hard to please each other, you really don't do each other a favor by scrambling around trying to be everything that they need so that they will be happy. You teach them how to be unhappy under more circumstances. And haven't you noticed they keep needing more and more and more and more and more from you when that's the basis of your relationship? Your marriage vows, if we were standing in your physical shoes, our marriage vows would be, I like you pretty much, let's see how it goes.